All right, everybody. Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. Tom Pelissaro has the latest on X here. The Seahawks are clearing roster space. The Seahawks are opening up cap space. The Seahawks are letting some players go in preparation for free agency. Open tampering starts in less than a week. Free agency itself starts in a little more than a week. And we need cap space. We need some money so we can go re-sign Leonard Williams. Maybe they can go re-sign a linebacker, be it Brooks or Wagner, so they can go out and get somebody like maybe a Jadeveon Clowney. We need money. We need money to make those things happen, and the Seahawks are going to create that money by releasing a few expensive players that we just don't feel like are going to be worth the money anymore. So, per Pelissaro on X here, we've got 3 news updates hot off the presses for the Seattle Seahawks. Not terribly surprising, but nevertheless interesting and definitely going to have to be a factor in the upcoming offseason plans. So the Seahawks are releasing 3-time Pro Bowl safety Jamal Adams and 3-time Pro Bowl safety Quandre Diggs. The moves save $27.5 million in cash. I believe that is working under the assumption that the Jamal Adams release is post June 1st, which I do think is likely. So $27.5 million in cap space is cleared. I believe that both moves are clearly correct. Not to say anything bad about Quandre Diggs, who had a very nice career here in Seattle. I think he earned his Pro Bowl berths. He was a ball hawk in his prime. He took a lot of stuff over the top away from opposing offenses, and he did his job. He routinely did his job as the deep safety, taking away stuff down the field. He wasn't Earl Thomas, but nobody was ever going to be Earl Thomas. Quandre Diggs was the Earl Thomas replacement that I didn't think we were ever going to be able to get, and he came somewhat close to Earl Thomas, even if he never really got there. But who was, right? Earl Thomas was a Hall of Famer in his prime. So Quandre Diggs, awesome Seattle career, earned his money, earned his keep all day long. Gonna recall his time in Seattle fondly, even if it didn't result in any like deep playoff runs or Super Bowls or anything like that. He did his job at all times, and I'm happy he was able to stick around as long as he did. Now, the Jamal Adams front is obviously a little bit more complicated than that and a little bit more mixed. There was some great stuff with Jamal Adams. He had some great times when he was on the field. There were some highlights to him that were very, very compelling. He set a NFL record for sacks for a defensive back his first year here, even though he missed some games that year. There was some stuff with Jamal Adams that was wonderful, and I'm not here to try to erase history, but there was also some stuff that was very ugly. The injuries, the long list of injuries that kept him off the field, the injuries that made him ineffective when he was on the field, and the monster contract that he signed that he wasn't able to live up to because of those issues. Some of the off-the-field behavior last year that definitely rubbed some people the wrong way and maybe accelerated this process. I don't know. But that got to the point where releasing him, even with the massive dead cap hit we are now inheriting from that contract, was a no-brainer. So that's a little bit different. But I do want to stress, most of the stuff that Jamal Adams fell short in was not his fault. A lot of it was because we didn't use him properly. A lot of it was because he was getting injured a bunch, which was not the case earlier in his career. This was not a player who came into Seattle with some massive litany of injuries already that we were just praying was going to work out. We got very unlucky in that regard. There was a lot of stuff that happened with Adams that I'm not here to say is his fault. It just didn't work out. And it really, really didn't work out. Maybe the trade to bring him in was a bad idea in the first place. A lot of people would argue that. But again, that's not Adams' fault. That's Pete Carroll's fault. That's maybe John Schneider's fault. That's Jody Allen's fault. That's our fault for valuing him to the point where we felt like it was worth giving up all that for one player who is a box safety in the NFL. So, again, not personal, but business wise, I think both these moves are clearly the correct things to do. But at the same time, I can be aware of the fact that there were good times, especially with Quandre Diggs. But the 25 mil plus in cap space is more valuable than those two players at this point. Now, there was one other release as well, and this one's also relatively high profile. Tight end Will Dissly is getting released. Pelissaro has the information here. I was kind of thinking that maybe we would avoid doing this because we don't have any tight ends right now other than Dissly. But the $7 million in savings, which is 70% of what he was going to make, was enough to convince the team to move on. And I got nothing against it, don't get me wrong. I think that the $7 million in cash could probably go out and get a better, more impactful player. The team has the opportunity to retain some of their outgoing tight ends that aren't aren't Will Dissly, like Colby Parkinson. They can draft a guy. There are going to be some good guys in this draft. They can go get a free agent. There are going to be some veterans in free agent that should be adequate for a little while that are probably going to cost less than $7 million. At least that first year cap hit's going to be less than $7 million if it's a multi-year deal. And I also think that there was some concern that Dissly was going to physically break down if we continued to put a heavy workload on his shoulders. So I believe that Will Dissly maybe there was some concern about his ability to take on a starting role next year with Fant gone. I think that's very possible. With all the injuries he's had in his career, it's a very understandable concern. So, Will Dissly, he was a great Seahawk. And I think he definitely earned his place around here 100%. He came in as a low pick. Had some awesome games those first 2 years. Kept getting hurt. Then finally was able to remain relatively healthy the last few years. But the ability was clearly just a little bit less. And he was already working from a base of a relatively limited physical specimen for as far as NFL tight ends go. So we were definitely talking about somebody who didn't have a lot of ability to spare. And with the physical toll that he's taken, he's probably at the point now where he's running like a 5-second 40. He's probably at the point now where he's got very little explosiveness. So I understand the preventative move to just say, let's move on now and refresh our tight end room completely and save 70% of what we were going to pay him. But it was a very impressive little career he had here in Seattle. He will probably go somewhere else and continue to have some degree of success. He just needs to go to an offense where he's going to be very limited in his snaps, I think, so he doesn't overwork himself. He's only going to be 27, so I think he'll have a little bit left. Maybe he comes back to Seattle on a significantly reduced deal. I don't know. But at this point, I'm kind of expecting us to part ways. He was obviously a Washington Husky, so I knew him from his college days, from watching Huskies games. And he exceeded all reasonable expectations in the NFL. So shout out to him. But Seahawks saving $7 million there. So between the two moves, we're talking about $35 million freed up in cap space, enough to go do a lot of work. So I will be seeing you guys later, but let me know what you guys think about the moves. Let me know how you feel. Go Hawks, and see you guys soon.